After watching the Michael Jackson movie, I realized something that completely changed how I view self-transformation. Because actors spend years becoming a character that isn't even real. So I thought about this. Like, why don't we treat our future selves the exact same way, you know? What if becoming who you want to be isn't fake, but practiced? So, one thing that really stood out to me about Michael Jackson while watching the movie was how deeply he believed in himself before the world fully understood who he was. He had visions long before they became reality. The way that he talked to himself, the way that he created, and how he imagined his future, it all started internally first. That's where everything starts. Even Thriller almost didn't happen because people doubted the idea of it. But he kept pushing anyway because he could already see the vision in his mind, and he brought that to life. And that's the thing about transformation, because most people wait for external proof before believing in themselves. But the people who actually change their lives usually believe first, and then reality catches up later. Another thing that I kept thinking about was the actors for movies, TV shows, etc. But for this one specifically, his nephew Jafar studied his uncle for years to play him. And not just the voice, but everything. The posture, the mannerisms, the energy, the emotional presence even. Actors literally train themselves into a role until it starts feeling natural. And honestly, as we all know, embodiment is powerful. Because identity isn't only created through thoughts, but it's created through repetition. So why don't we do this for our highest selves? Why don't we study the version of ourselves that we want to become? And something I really want to talk about, firstly, before dive into how to become the character that you want to be, is that I think people misunderstand the phrase fake it till you make it. Because literally, it's not about lying or pretending to be superior, it's about practicing a future identity before it feels natural. Confidence comes from repetition. Your future self is basically a role that you rehearse daily. The way that you speak, the habits you want to repeat, the standards you hold yourself to also. Because at first it feels unfamiliar, but eventually it will become you. So, the first thing that you really, really need to do is you need clarity. Because you cannot embody a version of yourself that you haven't even defined. So let me ask you this. What are their habits? How do they handle stress? How do they speak to themselves? And what energy do they bring into a room? I want you to write that down. Because right now you are not failing. You are a rough draft. And nothing is wrong with that because rough drafts are supposed to evolve over time. That's the whole point of them. So the main thing I want you to understand with this whole video is that transformation is not polished. Because actors have bad days too. Growth is supposed to be messy. That's what turns it into growth, because you wouldn't be growing without the mess. Sometimes you fall out of character, and that's normal. That's human. No need to blame yourself for that. But what matters is having a baseline version of yourself that you constantly return to. You get into a mess? Okay, give yourself some time. Return to it. Okay? And truth is, it's not even that hard at all. Literally, it's all just about getting up, knowing your values, knowing what you want to spend your time on, and giving yourself enough time to grow into that. Because identity doesn't change overnight. That is insanely impossible. It changes through consistency until the one day happens, and the role you practiced, you start seeing it too, becomes who you actually are.